friends, thanks for joining me again. And today I want to talk to you about what it truly means to be debt-free. Talk about would be your credit score. This is probably the biggest drawback in my opinion, so let's just go ahead and get over this really quickly. You're truly debt-free. You have no credit cards on your name, you have no mortgage, you have no student loans, nothing. After 6 months of not having anything being reported to your credit score, excuse me, the three major companies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, the credit companies revert your score back to zero. So even if you worked your way up to a really good, healthy score, it may end up that you end up with a zero. So that's definitely something you want to consider if you know you're going to be debt-free in the future. You know, just keep something on there, which is what I've chosen to do. Of course, my husband and I aren't debt-free right now. We did live, however, debt-free for 4.5 years before we got into our the debt that we have now. But so yeah, that's something you may want to consider. Personally, I like to keep a credit card under my name and then occasionally use a little bit on it and then pay it off in full at the end of that month just to keep something reporting to my credit score. That way it doesn't revert back to zero. And the problem with the whole, credit score reverting back to zero thing is that it can cost you a lot of money to not have a credit score. You have to pay higher, car insurance, but more about that in a future video. It may be either difficult or impossible to get a mortgage or any kind of a loan, and even jobs. My husband actually works for a fairly major retail store, and one of the people in the company wanted to transfer from one department to another, and they checked his credit. And they declined his job transfer for it. I mean, it wasn't even a new job that he was applying for, just a transfer within the same company, and they declined it because he had no credit score or a bad credit score. I'm not entirely sure, but they did just tell him, sorry, you didn't get the job and it's because of your credit, and that's all we got to hear about the whole thing. So yes, they do check your credit score frequently when you go to apply for jobs. I've even heard that McDonald's checks your credit when you're applying for a job. And the reason is they're just looking for responsible people, and they find that people who have better scores tend to be, and now I'm not saying I agree with this, but this is just the way the world and the system works, is that they find that they will find someone who's more responsible when they do that credit check. And so just letting you know, this is like I said, the biggest one, so I wanted to get this out of the way. You may want to be careful when you become debt-free, and weigh your options here, because living without a credit score can be very difficult, and it can actually cost you more than you think. Like I said, it may cost you a job, it may cost you a job transfer, it may cost you higher car insurance, it may cost you higher, like interest rates and things like that on your mortgage, or you may not be able to go through a company who pays for your closing costs and things like that. You may be limited on the companies that you're able to go through. So the fact that your credit score will revert back to zero after 6 months of having nothing reported underneath your credit is definitely one of the biggest things that I find is a major drawback when it comes to being debt-free. So the second one is more of a personal thing. It seems like I've seen a few people in my life become debt-free, and there's two types of people. They will fit into one of the two categories. Either they're like a bird who feels like they're like in this little tiny cage, and then they like can spread their wings and then they fly everywhere. So when you are debt-free, they go crazy and buy all kinds of stuff. So there's, camp number one. Here's camp number two. The people who have been so used to living on a budget and, frugal living and stuff like that, even when they're debt-free, they can find it hard to let loose and just be themselves and, go back to spending fairly normally without being on such a rugged budget anymore and that sort of thing. So most people I have found that fit into one of those two camps. If you feel like you have the tendency to probably go crazy and spend too much, try and see what you can do to make sure that doesn't, happen too much. And if you're the other type who's, really conservative, wants to stay frugal and whatnot, hopefully you have someone in your life who's like, come on, you know, live a little, and helps you to enjoy what you're making. You might either go crazy or you might, you know, not be able to buy anything. Because in the end, you might feel guilty just spending money on things that you wouldn't normally spend on. And then the last one is the fact that you will get bothered. First of all, by credit card companies and other things like this. You will get junk mail in your mail from Discover and MasterCard and Visa and everyone wanting you to take out a credit card out from under them. Or, you know, rent-to-own furniture places and stuff. These people can actually check your credit without your permission and without telling you that they did. So oftentimes they'll check people's credit, do a soft pull or something that's inexpensive for their company to do, find the people who have, you know, either good credit or, you know, don't have any debts and whatnot, and then they'll try and send you this stuff to try to get you to go back into debt again. So just be warned that you're going to get bombarded, possibly with phone calls or junk mail from people trying to get you to take out loans through them or credit cards, etc. And then the last one would be family and friends. So I found that there were different types of people in my life, and when I told them that I was debt-free, some were really positive. You know, they were encouraging, you know, congratulations and that sort of stuff. You know, they were really positive about it. Some people were inspired and were like, wow, you know, if you can get debt-free, we can probably do that too. And they would try and do it themselves. And then there are the negative people, the people who, well, that's useless, you know, you can't live that way, all this bad stuff's going to happen to you now because you're debt-free, and they'll just be negative in general, or they might make fun of you now, probably because they're jealous, or there are even people in your life who may want to come to you for money now because they know you're debt-free. There's a chance that you're probably saving up more money, you know. They may want to borrow money because they know that they're broke and you might have some money, so that sort of thing. So my advice here would just be to tread lightly on this one and take it by a case-by-case basis. You know your relatives, you know your friends, so be careful on who you tell and make sure that it's the people who will be positive and encouraging and, you know, possibly even inspired by your story, not the negative people who are going to try and bring you down, be negative, or even worse yet, try to mooch off of you now because of your newfound financial freedom. So there you go. That is what I learned about being debt-free. Hopefully you found this video helpful. I'm Frugal Green Girl. Thanks for watching.